Hello and welcome to the One Life Church devotional series. If this is your first morning with us and you read 2 chapters a day for the next 20 months, you will cover the entire Bible. Today's readings are Genesis 29 and 30, which actually follows the story of a farmer, his love life, his complex family life, and his business dealings. Now, behind me, over my shoulder, are some farmers in the distance. And often I sit there on my veranda in the evening and I see the twinkling lights of their homesteads, and I wonder, what's the backstory? What's going on under those shade cloth awnings that they're busy building? What's their marriage like? To me, they're just strangers in the distance. And many of the Bible characters are like that. They're just strangers in the distance. But these chapters give us a real understanding of Jacob and how he fell in love. And so if you've got family members who are about to get married, you yourself may be about to get married, you can lift some real insight out of this story. Jacob had really messed up his life. Remember, he had angered his brother, he had manipulated his father, and he had run away. But we suddenly see a change of gear with Jacob. When he comes to looking for his wife, he starts to honor God. He takes perspective from his mom and dad, which is a biblical thing to do. He picks a woman who's godly, who's a hard worker. She's a shepherdess watering her father's sheep, who honors her own parents. And when he courts her, he gets himself ready for marriage by getting himself a job. He honors her in not being promiscuous with her. And there's some really good lessons to learn here if you're preparing yourself for marriage. Anyway, the story really turns when Jacob reaps what he sowed. Remember what he had done to his dad and his brother? He had manipulated, he conspired with his mom. Well, the exact same thing happens to him here. The woman he loves conspires with her dad and manipulates him. And one morning, the marriage morning, after he thinks he's married Rachel, there was all sorts of intrigue. This could have been a real Hollywood blockbuster. Verse 25 of chapter 29 says, he woke up and behold, there was Leah. How does that work? That you wake up in the morning of your marriage day and you got the wrong woman in bed with you? Well, I think the only way that can be explained is an extreme amount of alcohol. And so he has with him now 2 women, because he agrees after the honeymoon week to marry the one that he really loved. And he really loved her. Verse 20 said, so Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel. This was his deal with her father-in-law. But they seemed only like a few days for her because of his love for Rachel. So you see a situation with 2 women in a household. It's pretty tricky, that. And, for me, marriage has become complicated when you bring outside things into them. And it might not be another woman. It might be, you bring a business into a marriage that has really stolen your heart. Or you bring a hobby into your marriage that has really captured your time and your passion. Anyway, this marriage is complicated now. And you see the pain of that complexity. Both women have maidservants, and they give their maidservants to Jacob as alternatives to raise children through. And they have 12 children amongst all these 4 women. And what we see is the complexity of this. Could we call it a blended family? A blended family is one where there are children in the family that come from different biological parents, which is a big reality in our day and age. And in fact, you probably, if you're listening to me, I guess maybe half of us might be in that boat. And what we do see is God's love for the personalities in that family. We can sort of mess things up with our decisions, but God loves and he cares for these kids. 2 of the kids, Levi and Judah, both come from the mom who was unloved. Can you imagine, being raised by a mom who's unloved? Judah, Levi, but God had massive destinies for those 2. Levi produced all the priests in Israel. Judah is where the kings came from. In fact, Jesus himself has his lineage from the kid of the mom who was unloved by Jacob. That's the kingly line. That's where Jesus came from. So even in this family, God is showing us that Jesus was going to identify with the unloved, the complexities of our world. The story ends with Jacob's business dealings and, a bit of astute animal husbandry. He was able to, make a lot of money there working with his father-in-law. My takeaway from this chapter is, other than an intriguing story, far more than the twinkling lights that are just behind me, is God's care for us while we muddle through our own lives. God bless you. Have a great day.